Wrights Law is a function of units. Wrights Law says for every cumulative doubling, that's the only thing I would change in what you said, for every cumulative doubling in the number of units produced, costs associated with a specific technology decline at a consistent percentage rate. So let me give you a few examples. Let's continue with DNA sequencing. For every cumulative doubling, now last year, I think we did roughly 2019, 2.6 million whole human genomes were sequenced around the world. Now there are billions of people, so we are in the early days. So 2.6 meant that in the history of all time, if you add that to the sequences before, we had sequenced roughly altogether about 4 million whole human genomes in the history of all time. And it won't be long before we'll be at 5 now, right? So 2.5 to 5. Every time you get that cumulative doubling, those costs drop by 40%. Think about it. That's how you got from $2.7 billion to $600. And we're going to 100, we're going to $1, and we're going to 10 cents, because the data is what's going to become more important than the actual business of sequencing. And if you do the same thing for battery pack systems for electric vehicles, for every cumulative doubling, we're at 2 million last year. So we'll quickly be at 4 million. And I should add all the other sales before, but we are so early here that we're going to see a doubling in no time. For each cumulative doubling in the number of battery pack systems produced, costs decline by 28%. So within a very short time, the average electric vehicle cost will be below that of the average gas-powered vehicle cost. Already the total cost of ownership is lower. And if you do the same analysis on collaborative robots, that number is roughly 18% for every cumulative doubling. So these are rapid cost declines. And why is that important? Because with each cost decline, each step function down, a new technology unleashes waves of new demand. You can afford it. So back in the internet and the tech and telecom bubble, the technologies weren't ready and the costs were way too high. Now we're from very low bases. Everything that we are discussing and everything that we research is at a very low base today compared to where it's going. The costs are declining dramatically, and the units are going to scale dramatically. And from a timing point of view, which many people say, well, okay, you're a thematic investor. I've known a lot of it or watched a lot of it, thematic investors, and what they get wrong is the timing. Well, the reason Wrights Law is so useful to us is we know the cost decline. We can see if that's on track. But the second question we have to ask to get the timing right is, for every percentage decline in price, so we are able to tell if demand is responding to costs the way we have been expecting. And if we're wrong, we'll have to figure it out. So now the 5 platforms, I've given you a preview with DNA sequencing. DNA sequencing, foundational, will transform healthcare. Energy storage is foundational. I just mentioned how it would disrupt the internal combustion engine and all the infrastructure associated with it. Robotics, costs are coming down to the point where robots, and particularly collaborative robots, so think robot arms on an assembly line, workers will train them to take their jobs. And as we move back into a labor shortage, and we believe we will, those workers will be overseeing robots and their wages can go up. With increased productivity can come increased wage gain. So robotics, critically important here. Artificial intelligence. We believe that artificial intelligence is going to impact every line item of the income statement and the balance sheet, and that any company not embracing it for their own use and gathering as much data, not just from internally, but externally, is going to be in harm's way. And then finally, blockchain technology. blockchain technology. Many people associate blockchain technology with Bitcoin, as we do. So Bitcoin is little b, blockchain technology or Bitcoin, that technology is capital B. And so we do believe that starting with the financial services sector, blockchain technology will be quite disruptive. The name for that today, or the shorthand name for it, is DeFi, decentralized finance. And we're seeing very early days, but amazing progress. I'll just say, when we started the firm, we had 4 platforms. The last platform, we broke into artificial intelligence and blockchain technology because we think both of them are going to be quite profound in their ramifications. We originally called the category Next Generation Internet, but we believed each of these should be broken out because they are going to be foundational going forward. Why they are innovation platforms from ARK's point of view. They meet 3 characteristics. 1, they're technologically enabled and follow declining cost curves. So that's Wrights Law. 2 is they cut across economic sectors. And very quickly, by the way, we present in one of our decks how quickly electricity crossed sectors. It was very narrowly defined in the early days, and then wham, a big surprise. And we think because of this phenomenon that traditional research departments are going to have to reorganize if they want to invest effectively in innovation. How are they set up right now? Very siloed by sector, subsector, even sub-subsector, right? And yet these technologies are going to evolve much more rapidly, and these companies, because they're cutting across sectors. So if you're very siloed and technology really has very little to do with what you're doing, healthcare is a great example of that. And the third characteristic for these platforms is they are launching pads for more innovation. So DNA sequencing has been a launching pad for CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing. Why? Well, in order to edit a genome, you have to understand where the mutations are. Until we sequence a genome, we cannot understand that. And in fact, we cannot understand mutations, which are the fundamental cause of disease, at all. So healthcare is moving from guesswork, because we didn't have the science and knowledge and technology, toward science and technology impacting healthcare decision-making.